Juliette Nichols is running for her life, and this time there's nowhere left to hide. Camille Sims just found out what Jules discovered, and she's already decided what needs to happen next. Apple TV Plus just confirmed it themselves. The race to escape Camille is about to lead Jules straight into a discovery that could change everything we thought we knew about Silo 18. But here's what nobody's talking about. The title of this episode isn't just a warning for Jules, it might be a warning for someone else entirely. Someone who's about to walk straight into a trap they don't even know is waiting for them. Silo Season 3 Episode 4 is officially titled, Whatever You Do, Don't Go Home, and Apple has already confirmed the core of what's coming. The race to evade Camille leads Juliette to a shocking discovery, and Daniel seeks help from a friend. That's the official logline, and honestly, just those 2 lines are enough to build some serious theories around. So let's start with Jules, because after everything that happened in Episode 3, she is not in a good place. We left Jules unconscious after she was exposed to that poison released into the mines, and the last thing Camille said was that she'd be willing to be the one who kills Jules for the greater good of the silo. Now Apple is telling us directly that Episode 4 is about Jules trying to evade Camille. That confirms something huge. Jules wakes up, she survives whatever state she was left in, but surviving and being safe are 2 very different things, and I think that gap is exactly where this episode is going to live. If Jules is evading Camille, that means she's aware Camille is a threat, or she's found out something that makes staying anywhere near Camille too dangerous. Remember, Camille didn't kill Jules the first time she had the chance. She let her walk out of that apartment because she was intrigued by what Jules was searching for. I think that curiosity hasn't gone away, and I think it's going to clash hard with the algorithm's pressure to remove Jules completely. So here's my theory. I don't think Camille is chasing Jules purely to end her. I think Camille is chasing her because she wants to know what Jules has found before anyone else does. And that hesitation, that split-second want to understand instead of destroy, might be the exact reason Jules manages to survive this episode at all. Now let's talk about the shocking discovery itself, because this is where the title starts making a lot more sense. Whatever you do, don't go home doesn't sound like a throwaway line. It sounds like a direct warning, and I think it's tied to whatever Jules uncovers while she's running. If Jules is evading Camille instead of hiding safely somewhere, that tells me she can't go back to wherever she considers home right now. Maybe it's Silo 18 itself. Maybe it's her own apartment or mechanical or somewhere Camille has already moved to control. Going home might mean walking straight into the one place Camille expects her to go, which means the smartest move Jules can make is the one thing that goes against every instinct she has after nearly dying. Staying away from the place she trusts the most. And this is where I think the discovery comes in. Jules has spent this entire season chasing answers about the before times, about what really happened to the outside world, and about why the silos exist at all. If her escape from Camille pushes her into a part of the silo she wouldn't normally go, she might stumble onto something nobody was ever supposed to find. It could be proof about what the algorithm actually is. It could be something about Silo 17. It could even be something connected to the Outsiders and Patrick Kennedy, especially with Lucas Kyle already in their hands. Whatever it is, I don't think this is a small reveal. Apple wouldn't call it shocking unless it directly changes how we see the bigger picture of this show. Here's the part that worries me the most, though. If Jules finds something this big while she's still weak from the poison, still without her memories fully intact, and still being hunted by someone in a position of total power, she's more exposed than she's ever been. Camille isn't some random threat. She's the person controlling water, food, and now potentially the vitamin D plus supply that could wipe everyone's memory clean. If Camille catches up to Jules the moment she finds this discovery, what happens to that information? Does it disappear with Jules? Or does it just make Camille more determined to bury it forever? And if evading Camille is the entire premise of this episode, what happens the moment Jules stops running and has to decide whether to fight back? Let's move to the second half of that official logline, because Daniel seeking help from a friend might actually be the most dangerous move anyone makes this episode. Daniel Keene has spent this entire season stuck between 2 worlds. He built his career on being the man who saved New Orleans, the inventor whose drill technology made him a government hero, and yet every time he gets closer to the truth about what really happened before the silos existed, he backs away from it. Now Apple is telling us he's reaching out to a friend for help, and I think this is the moment where his moral dilemma stops being something he can quietly sit with. Here, quote S, why this worries me. In episode 3, Helen Drew was the one who paid the price for digging too deep. She lost her job. The authorities were closing in on her. Daniel barely got touched by any of it, and I think that's because the government still needs him. His technology is too valuable to lose, and I believe there are people positioning him for a much bigger role in whatever comes next for the United States. So if Daniel is now reaching out to a friend, the question becomes, is this someone who can help him uncover more of the truth? Or is this someone who pulls him even further into the system that's been protecting him this whole time? I think there's a real possibility that this friend isn't someone new. It could be someone we've already met, someone tied to the government, the military, or even the Nimitz. Remember, the captain of the Nimitz has already been shown pulling strings behind the scenes. If Daniel's friend is connected to that same web, reaching out for help could actually be the moment Daniel gets pulled deeper into the cover-up instead of closer to exposing it. And that would be devastating, especially after everything Helen has already sacrificed trying to get him to see the truth. But there's another angle here that I think is just as likely. What if this friend is someone completely outside the political machine, someone who has no reason to protect the official story? If that's the case, this could be the turning point where Daniel finally starts working against the system instead of hiding inside it. I think the title of this episode supports that theory too. Whatever you do, don't go home could easily apply to Daniel and Helen just as much as it applies to Jules. If they're getting close to something dangerous, going home might mean walking back into a place that's no longer safe, a place where the people covering up the dirty bomb and the truth about Iran can find them and silence them for good. Now let's bring this back to the silo because I don't think Robert Sims is done causing problems either. After everything that happened between him and Camille in episode 3, I think the fallout from that fight is going to bleed straight into this episode. Sims watched his wife go from someone who worked alongside him to someone who now holds the kind of power that can erase every memory in Silo 18. He's already seen the door shut in his face once. If Camille is out there hunting Jules while also still considering the vitamin D plus plan, Sims is running out of time to stop her quietly. I think this episode is where we start seeing early cracks in his loyalty. He spent years following orders for the greater good of the silo, even when it cost him time with his own family. Now the one thing he actually wants, staying present for his son and being remembered as his father, is at risk of being wiped away completely. If Sims finds out that Camille is closer than ever to putting that plan into action while she's also busy chasing down Jules, I think he makes a choice. Maybe it's small at first, a warning passed to the wrong person, a delay in the operation, a conversation he wasn't supposed to have. But small choices like that tend to snowball fast in a place like Silo 18. So here's where all three of these threads start to connect. Jules is trying to survive and outrun Camille. Daniel is reaching out to someone who could either save him or bury him deeper in the lie. And Sims is sitting on a decision that could either protect his family or expose everything Camille has been planning. 3 separate fires, all burning at the same time in the same episode, with a title that warns every single one of them not to go home. But if Sims really does start working against his own wife, who does he turn to first? Does he go to Billings and the committee he's already been quietly building? Or does he do something far more reckless, something that puts him directly in Camille's path at the worst possible moment? Now let's bring everything together, because I think the final piece of this episode comes down to one simple question. What actually happens the moment all 3 of these stories collide? Jules evading Camille, Daniel reaching out to a friend, and Sims sitting on a decision that could break his marriage apart. I don't think these threads stay separate for long, and I think the title is the key that ties them all together. Whatever you do, don't go home isn't just a warning about a physical place. I think it's a warning about trust. Every major character in this episode is being pushed toward the one person or the one place they'd normally run to for safety, and every single one of those options has turned dangerous. Jules can't go back to wherever she'd normally feel safe because Camille is watching. Daniel can't go back to the comfortable version of his career because the truth is catching up to him. And Sims can't go back to the relationship he had with Camille because she's become someone he no longer recognizes. That's not a coincidence. I think that's exactly the point the writers are making with this episode. So let's talk about what I think this means for Jules specifically. If she does survive Camille's pursuit in this episode, and I believe she does based on the official logline confirming she's actively evading rather than already caught, then the discovery she makes has to matter beyond just this one episode. I think whatever she finds becomes leverage, something she can use against Camille, or something that finally convinces someone else in power that Camille's plans are more dangerous than anyone realizes. If that's true, it means Jules isn't just running to survive. She's running toward the one thing that could actually stop Camille for good, even if she doesn't fully realize it yet. Now here's where I think Daniel's storyline becomes the most important piece of the whole episode. If reaching out to a friend genuinely helps him uncover more truth about the dirty bomb and what really happened before the silos, I think we're watching the birth of the resistance that eventually leads to everything we already know happens generations later. Daniel isn't just a side character stuck in the before times. I think he's one of the reasons the truth ever survives long enough to matter. But that only works if he chooses truth over comfort. And right now, I'm not convinced he's ready to make that choice. And I think this episode pushes him right up to the edge of that decision without letting him fully commit yet, which sets up an even bigger reckoning down the line. And then there's Sims, the character I think ends up in the most impossible position of anyone this episode. If he starts working against Camille, even in small ways, he's not just risking his safety. He's risking his son's safety, his marriage, and his entire identity within the silo. I think the writers are building toward a moment where Sims has to choose between the man he used to be and the man Camille needs him to become. And based on everything we've seen so far, I don't think he chooses her. So here's what I believe this episode really sets up. Jules survives, but she's more exposed than ever because of what she now knows. Daniel gets closer to the truth, but at the cost of pulling Helen further into danger alongside him. And Sims makes his first real move against his own wife. A move that could either save Silo 18 or completely destroy what's left of his family. 3 characters, 3 impossible choices, and one title that warns every single one of them the same thing. Don't go home because home isn't safe anymore. Which one of these 3 do you think breaks first? And when they do, is there any way back from it?